getting started with painting, the first thing we want to do is do what's called blocking in, or blocking in our background color. So it's basically adding underpainting before we start any of the mirrors and the details. So I can see my reference photo that I highlighted the dark, light, and kind of gray areas. I've got my paint with a little bit of white and black, and my cardboard. So the very first thing I'm going to do is this kind of out of the bottle color, I'm going to call my gray, my middle range. I'm not lightening it. I'm not darkening it. It's going to be these gray areas. So I'm going to take a little bit of that paint with the biggest brush I can find and just gently start to brush it over my disco ball. Now, because I haven't cut this out yet, I'm not super worried if I go out of the lines. Now, this paint is really thick. For this, you want to make sure that you can actually see your drawing through the paint. So if it's too thick, just get a tiny bit of water and mix it in. The water down your paint just a little bit for this step, only because we want to add color without covering up our drawing. So I'm going to just start with a really light coat of my middle range color. So I'm not lightening it. I'm not darkening it. This is what I will call my gray. Okay, so do that really quick. And then the next step will be to add those light and dark areas. And the reason for this underpainting is so that when we do start to add the little mirrors and those nice details on top, it will really help this feel round and dynamic, right? Because we've got kind of those realistic light and dark areas happening. Okay, so you can see it's a nice thin coat. I've watered down my paint quite a lot just so that when this kind of dries, I can still see my pencil underneath, which is what I want. So now I've got my base color. Now I can start to look at very specifically where are the dark and where are the light areas. So it doesn't matter whether you start with light or dark. Maybe I'll start with light. So I'm going to take a little bit of the pink and a little bit of the white and sort of just mix it together. And we're going to do a lot more of this later with the mirrors, but for now I'm just blocking in. So now where's my light? Well, where did I highlight green? I've got a little bit up here. I've got a little bit kind of in the middle here. And you can see I'm just going over really quick and it's sort of blending the middle color with my lighter color. And again, it doesn't really matter how perfect this is because we're going to paint the details over top. So I'm just looking at my image. Where are the lightest spots? And just blocking those in. And I've got a little bit kind of down here. Okay, awesome. All right, so now I've got my gray and my light. Now I need my dark. Now, a word of warning, black is such a powerful color or shade, tint. So grab just a tiny bit on your brush when you go to add it to your main color, because you'll see a little bit goes a really long way. So it's easier to add the black to the pink than the other way around, because I would need a whole bottle of pink to lighten up this blob. So grab a little bit of black at a time and mix it. See, now it's too dark. So I can move over here and just kind of stir around until I'm happy with my kind of dark pink. I don't want it black, I just want it dark pink. Okay, happy with this color. Now I can see I've got a little bit, make it a little bit darker, a little bit of a dark spot here. I've got a little bit of a dark spot here on this side and a little bit here and quite a big section here and down into here. And where else? So it's just a matter of going back to your reference image, kind of having a look. And I think I'm going to end up having troubles because you can see I've painted over a lot of my lines, so I might have to redraw them, but that's not the end of the world because I still have my picture here that I can look at. So it's all good. Okay. All right. So now you can see it's definitely not perfect, but when I look at what I've got here and I look at what I've got here, I can see I have some dark, some highlights, and kind of everything else, that mid-range gray. And if you feel like maybe you put too much of either the dark or the light, you can always go back in. So I feel like maybe this area got a bit too dark. So I'm going to go back in and grab my, let's call it gray tone, that out of the bottle pink, and put some back kind of in the middle because I feel like maybe I got too much. Okay, so don't be afraid to go back and do that if you feel like you kind of mucked up a little bit. It's not a big deal. That's the nice part about this underpainting, is we're still just kind of getting started. I'm feeling pretty happy about the representation of my blocking in. So now this needs to dry so that I can go back and make sure I can see my pencil lines. And once this is dry, then I can really start to add those exciting mirrors, right? I can really add those details and make this feel like a finished disco ball. So stay tuned for the next part and final part and most exciting part of the tutorial, where we get to color blend to add our disco ball mirrors.